Welcome, Ultimate fans, to Ultiworld's live coverage of the Division I College Championships here in Mason, Ohio. We have a women's quarterfinal matchup for you. Don't adjust your screens. These are two teams in the quarterfinals. And our coverage is brought to you by VC. VC Ultimate has been producing the highest quality, custom-made Ultimate uniforms and apparel since 1998. Custom designed by and for female athletes. And I'm Keith Rayner, joined in the booth by Charlie Eisenhood. And we have Stanford Superfly and Dartmouth Princess Layout, the number 1 and number 2 overall seeds at the tournament, who through a series of unusual events are meeting in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, it's a great matchup, Keith. It's obvious. You got the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country facing off here. And not just that, but the two teams that have stood out as well above the rest of the women's division. Now, both teams have faced some adversity this weekend. Stanford struggled at times. Dartmouth loses to Oregon yesterday, falls into a pre-quarter that sends them here to the quarters against Stanford. And I think we're really going to be in for a treat because both teams are going to be at their peak level, knowing just how much this game means.
And I wonder if are the teams prepared to have to play at this level now? I think that you build up the semis, the finals, when were you going to see these great teams, and suddenly you run into them a little bit earlier than expected. Is that going to throw you off your rhythm, your plans?
Well, I think both teams expected this matchup. So the fact that it's happening now, 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, is not so relevant. In some ways, maybe there's a little less pressure. You're not on the showcase field with 1,000 fans in the stands. You're not on the ESPN broadcast. Instead, you get to focus on your game, still here at Heritage Oak Park, and both teams know what's on the line.
This is the start of what's going to be a thrilling quarterfinals round here in Mason, Ohio. Excellent matchups across the board.
Yeah, I think some things to watch. The last time these two teams met, Dartmouth got a big win at the Stanford Invite.
An emphatic win.
But it was a sloppy game. It was a strange game. Stanford was kind of at a weird point in their season, not playing their best ultimate. And I think what we saw in that game is that Stanford really struggled to match up with the extreme talents at the top end of Dartmouth's roster. And let's get this game underway.
Juliana Werfley with the pull for Dartmouth in the blacks, coming down to defend. Stanford in the whites. And we're going to get some of these good matchups to start. Angela Zhu defending Hallie Dunham. Great break side throw to get Caitlin Go the disc and a jump ball. Jacqueline Verjus swallows it up.
Well, that's not a great start for Stanford. Don't really want to be attacking Jacqueline Verjus deep, especially with a hanger.
And off the turn, it looks like Stanford has transitioned directly into zone. Now a jump ball again to Verjus, but this time on offense, and she skies over Monisha White to get the disc. Monisha, one of the best deep defenders in the division, and Verjus just going over her. Now Lily Eisner with the disc. Stanford still in the zone. Very impressive how quickly they transition into this defensive set.
Well, it's not a surprise, Keith. They really struggled to match up in person defense at the Stanford Invite. They saw what Oregon did to Dartmouth using a zone. They're trying it here early.
Great job on the mark by Hallie Dunham. But eventually, after so many seconds, Angela Zhu gets Dartmouth on the board with a break. She puts it in the hands of Julia Galliani for the score.
And that is just Jacqueline Verjus getting it going here early. First getting the block, and then just going up in a static situation over Monisha White. And we see here the simple backhand into the end zone, just waiting for the zone to make moves.
No, it was incredible there to me. Jacqueline Verjus actually got wide open. Her defender fell down on the cut. Angela Zhu was 5 yards away, just trying valiantly to get her the disc, and Hallie Dunham's mark kept the throw from going up to the best receiver in the game with no defender on her. But all that energy spent not going to help you for all 10 seconds if nobody can get the downfield D in position.
Worth noting that Monisha White has been a little bit under the weather for Stanford. She didn't play much yesterday, had a bit of an illness, and we'll see how she does today. You don't really want to ascribe much meaning to one individual play, but if Stanford can't defend Verju deep when they get essentially a 50-50 shot, which of course with Verju on the field is not going to be a 50-50, they're going to struggle in this game.
Pardon me, that was Ella Zanitas on the score for Dartmouth. And Hallie Dunham getting things initiated for Superfly again. Right to Caitlin Go, completely uncovered. This is much of how last possession started, but Go resets.
It's a good opening look for Stanford with Go getting out into the open space, but they had no continuations again.
And great defense there by Piper Curtis. Gets in on the throw up to Rachel Thompson. And now Dartmouth has the disc again. Caitlin Lee with the disc, and Stanford again transitions to zone. No surprise, the most effective strategy thus far against this Dartmouth team has been zone. See if you can take them away from hucking to Verju. Got Courtney Gegg on the mark. Big, long athlete. It's going to be difficult for these throwers to get off throws against.
Well, the Stanford zone is certainly slowing down Dartmouth.
They Werfele running out of real estate here. She nears the sideline, so she just throws a high one. And this time, White's able to get it. But it looks like a foul call is coming from Verju.
Oh, that's just not a good call from Jacqueline Verju. And I think she's taking it back right away. I mean, clearly, Monisha White had position, got up and made the play. Verju never really able to get it in front and get a hand on the disc.
Nice job there by White to get the block.
That's a better job that time to be in good position before the huck goes up, allowing her to make that play and hold her position.
Rosemary Sandino goes ahead to Thompson. Now Gegg getting her first touch on the open side. Looking to the end zone. Caitlin Go goes up, comes down with it. It's a hold for Stanford.
And that's a very nice throw by Courtney Gegg. And that's the kind of throws they're going to need to be able to make. They have had some struggles in the first couple points here just executing individual throws. But we see here as Gegg comes under, catches through the contact, waits for it, and then throws a perfect flick to Go at the front cone. I think that's an important first hold for Stanford. If you get broken there, you really start to get a little tense, a little worried. Instead, they get the deep block in a zone scheme that I think makes a lot of sense, and they work it down the field comfortably, mostly on the open side, and they put the score in. And I think that's really important for their confidence, especially coming off the last game against Dartmouth where they really got run out of the building.
Certainly the conditions are much different than that game at Stanford Invite. And the mud really seemed to slow down the extreme athleticism of this Stanford team. Very fast downfield and not able to really have the same burst in those conditions. Here it's a brisk morning with a little bit of a breeze, sunshine overhead, so certainly very different from the last time these two teams met. Pull goes up from White and rolls out the side. Eisner fields it and centers up to Zoo. Probably not someone you want to leave unmarked, although Dartmouth not able to get anything out of it. Now they will go into person defense or change in strategy.
They're leaving the last back, though, so it's a little bit of a switchy person, and they're just letting Monisha White sit in the backfield and patrol the deep space.
And understandable, it takes two to kind of defend Verju. Even with Shayla Harris, one of the best person defenders in the country.
Well, you can see right now the weakness of leaving a last back, which is that they're having wide open swings, and they're able to work a lot of easy throws to gain yardage. See unmarked there.
Dartmouth has advanced into the red zone, and an incredible catch there from Verzu. Really looked like a sure turnover, and she could turn a turnover into a completion and an assist very quickly.
Lily Eisner to the front cone for the Dartmouth score. Nice point from Eisner, and a nice job by Dartmouth of working against the poaching in the deep space. Get another look at this Verzu catch.
And really, this with any other receiver, that's a turnover.
I agree. There are very few players in the division that are going to consistently make that catch, and it seems like Verzu makes it look routine.
Yeah, it's not going to show up on the stat sheet. It's not a sky and goal, but that's an invaluable ability that is unreplicated by anybody else.
So an interesting wrinkle there from Stanford, showing a matchup defense up front with the poach last back, which is unlike what we saw when their O-line had turnovers, where they went into more traditional zone.
And it almost pays off. I mean, they almost get the turnover from one of the less experienced throwers on the line, which is the whole idea. We're going to make the other 6 players on the field beat us, and we're not going to let a huck go up to Verzu be the thing that takes us out of this. It didn't look exactly polished. It was a bit clunky. I don't think the switches were very smooth. But that could be a little bit of nerves, or maybe they recently installed this defense. We don't really know at this point. It's Werfele puts up another backhand pull to be fielded by Dunham. Now
again, we see Caitlin Go coming out of the space, and this time they go to the other side. Then it opens up some room.
Dartmouth in a zone to start, or at least poaching the lanes. Werfele poached deep, and Zoo was poached just in the middle of the field. Now transitioning to match up. Thompson looking deep. Her forehand's turning over, but Sandino's in the neighborhood. But just a little too blady.
Yeah, there is a bit of a wind blowing from left to right, so that throw is a little tricky because of the wind blowing into the face of the thrower. But again, execution on throws so far in this match, not great for Stanford.
And another quick transition for Stanford's offense into a zone. 3 players up front, 4 players in sort of a diamond-shaped downfield. Caitlin Go playing that short, deep, very tight, almost like a 4th member of the front. Trap here. Zoo goes cross field, high throw. Great job by Curtis to fight off the approaching Dunham.
That's just a great individual play to save a possession off a high stall. And now Stanford resets that.
Former Team USA U20 teammates Curtis and Dunham going up together. Zoo holding. Horizontal movement is available on some of these throws, but Stanford going from flat to a bit of a trap when they near the sideline. Gegg so active and long on the mark.
Yeah, she's causing problems for the Dartmouth throwers, but when Angela Zhu doesn't have a mark, she's throwing pinpoint shots.
Layout grab there from Werfele. Curtis gets it up the sideline, but a drop by her receiver. Sarah Colon not able to haul that in, and Stanford's going to get another shot to hold. And a switch at the back of the stack to help defend the deep cut. And there Dunham bobbles it, but catches it on second effort. And her teammate does the exact same thing.
Stanford looking a little bit nervous as we watch them throw it away.
Sandino just not on the same page with Thompson there. Both ideas seemed acceptable, but just can't do them both at the same time. Zoo and Werfele working it together. And now Werfele looking to the end zone for Curtis. White and Chase, but It's going to head out the back of the end zone. The wind just pushing that disc off the field of play.
One note about this game so far. Stanford is determined not to just let Angela Zhu and Jacqueline Verjou beat them. These defenses are designed to get the disc into the hands of the other players on Dartmouth where they feel they probably have a bit more of an advantage. So far they are generating turnovers, but they're going to have to start showing better execution on offense.
There, a little missed execution by Dartmouth on defense, but the disc wasn't checked in yet. Caitlin Ghost springing wide open deep. The switch is not catching that, but White had not checked in the disc to throw it to her, but the chaos that ensued freed up some underspace and has let Stanford's offense advance. White now roughly at midfield as we get a stoppage. Looks like Stanford transitioning into a stack. White with a nice low release step out backhand, and now Santino throws it towards Gegg, but Thompson recovers it, and now Thompson to the end zone, right back to Santino.
And she is fired up as she spikes the disc after the nice upwind hold. Great use of the break side by Stanford on that point. A couple of great break throws, first from Hallie Dunham, later from Monisha White, and that really got the offense flowing.
And still struggling a little bit with the wind here, which is going from left to right on your screen. And you can see that initial throw getting over the head of the intended receiver. But Thompson with not only the wherewithal to catch it, but to immediately get rid of it to her open teammate. So much going on here at Mason this round. If you want to follow along with everything here at the College Championships, recommend you head over to ultiworld.com/live if you are not there already.
We got a lot of exciting action, of course. Quarterfinals. Most games haven't started yet. So we have this game and the other game on this side of the women's bracket because they are preparing to play the early game on ESPN at 11:30 this morning. So they started 2 games at 8. The rest of the games will start at 8:30. So we're going to get a bunch of games underway here in about 15 minutes, and looking forward to bringing you all of the action on ultiworld.com/live.
That other game is British Columbia and Virginia. The winner of these 2 games will play each other in the semifinals, and it's tied at 2-2 in that game. Stanford again in his zone. And you can see the amount of attention they're dedicated to Verjou. 2 defenders on her as she's 45 yards away from the disc. And I love the range of these Stanford defenders right now. There are many players who I think of zone as a chance to take a smaller amount of space on the field, but these defenders are working with large swaths of grass and working hard to try and take away options from Dartmouth, but Zhu just keeps finding holes.
Oh, that's just a throw you can't let off if you're in the cup.
And here's the throw they've been trying to avoid. Zhu with the huck to Verjou, but she short arms it, and it's intercepted by Michelle McGee.
And as good as Verjou is, throwing against double coverage is going to be difficult for Dartmouth.
Now Stanford with their first opportunity to break, and a foul called by Gordon, Anne-Marie Gordon, trying to take the inside lane there away from Curtis. So Gordon will keep the disc. There's no contest from Curtis on the foul.
A pretty clear bump there on the catch attempt.
Disc gets around to Carly Ekstrom. Sophomore back into the middle of the field to Dunham.
Dunham's break throws have been excellent here in the early part of this game.
But the offense very stagnant for Stanford, and a turnover there. Moyo Okaremi able to get the block. and give a short field to Dartmouth. Zhu and Werfley, along with Curtis and Eisner in the backfield. Still working against the Stanford zone. And it's just, with Zhu and Verjou in the mix, you just have to change your strategy. This traditional game is just not going to work. You can't beat them at it. Oregon getting the big win yesterday with similar tactic. Try and force the rest of the team to beat you. Try and slow them down a bit and take away their ability to win jump balls and deep shots.
Dartmouth's getting easy resets, but it's not making much of a difference. They've been unable to find a connection with the second-level players.
Yeah, those were available when they had more room with the disc further from the end zone, but Stanford's been able to clamp down with less field to guard. This is one of the pros of running zone near the end zone.
I think one of the issues right now is that Verjou is totally uninvolved in the play. She's hanging out in the deep space, but Stanford is keyed in on covering her, and she's just not open.
I mean, there have been two players within 15 yards of her, two defenders rather, within 15 yards of her for basically this entire possession.
And you see Dartmouth has now lost a little bit of yardage, and that's a nice play by Angela Zhu.
And now Verjou ends up with the score. Zhu cracking it open with the penetrating cut, and Verjou finishes it off.
So Dartmouth maintaining that one break advantage, up 3-2 after breaking on the first point of the game. Take a look here as Angela Zhu breaks it open, finding Verjou, and then Verjou almost throws her defender to the ground as she spikes the disc for the score.
Maybe missing the call there. Maybe a foul call warranted in that situation. But Verjou has an interesting cutting style, at least in the college game. I don't think she does this in her club experience, but sometimes she will make 2 to 3 cuts in a very short time at the front cone and just expect that all she needs is a small sliver of space for her exceptional throwers to give her something where she can body out her defender.
Despite the fact that Dartmouth scored that point, I think Stanford is showing that they have a game plan that can work. Because Dartmouth got the disc about 15 yards from the end zone and had to throw, 40 passes in order to score? And sure, they were patient, they executed, and they eventually broke through and got the goal. But that was for a 15-yard score. Over the course of the game, Stanford could generate turnovers from that. I think the question is going to be, how do they execute on offense?
And let's not forget that their zone defense helped them generate a turnover on a short huck. We'll see what Stanford can do against Dartmouth's zone defense. Now, the zone applied by Princess Leia, although it looks like they're transitioning. They're initiating with that zone perhaps to take away some of the deep game, but Stanford nearly opens it up, but Verjou in the lane to take it away.
I think a great job by Dartmouth to shut down the pull play that we've been seeing from Stanford as Gegg throws it away. That early zone look really shuts down that big flooding play that we saw from Caitlin Go on the first couple points.
So Gegg overthrowing Go. Now Werfley in this Dartmouth defensive offense, although personnel-wise it looks a lot like the O-line. We're getting heavy doses of Werfley, Zhu, and Verjou. The big three, so to speak. Nice throw from Zhu to gain a lot of yardage, and then Dunham with a hand block, but a foul call by May Hardebeck.
Dunham does not contest. Good swarming defense.
Hardebeck with nowhere to go here, so she throws a high throw. Thompson skies for the interception.
discomfort there from Hardebeck.
And a high throw from Deanna Abrams targeting Gegg, and Verzu picks it off. And now Dartmouth's looking to break free, and now they've got Lee, Verzu, and Zanitas with lots of room. Lee jumps it in.
And that's another break for Dartmouth. Stanford with the early turnover, gets it back. Great position in order to then punch in a hold, but another poorly executed throw, and Dartmouth's off to the races. And that's something Stanford cannot let happen. As we see just nobody on the marks here, they never catch up, and Lee gets an easy goal. If they give up fast breaks, Stanford will not be able to keep up with Dartmouth in this game.
Stanford taking a timeout as they go down by a second break. This timeout is presented to you by Disc Store. DiscStore.com is proud to support Ultiworld Live and has a special team jersey offer for live viewers only. This is your last chance. This is our last game, folks. So get your team jersey starting at $15 per jersey using the promo code Ultiworld. Email jerseys at DiscStore.com to receive the exclusive offer. And Charlie, you mentioned a fast break, really a jailbreak there, opened up by Angela Zhu's ability to throw over the top of the zone. And it's something we've seen her use to great effect before. We've seen teams set zones. I mean, you think look back to last year's pre-quarterfinal matchup, Dartmouth taking on Washington. We had that game on the live stream, and Washington went almost exclusively zone. And that throw was the throw that Angela Zhu and Dartmouth used to beat them.
That's true. She's an exceptional talent, and you can't simply throw zone and expect to beat Dartmouth. But I have to say, Stanford has generated turnovers. They've had chances, and it's been their offense that's let them down. Their D-line offense has looked completely unable to move the disc, and their offensive line has had a couple of nice points, but has also struggled to remain consistent. And I don't think the defense is the problem for Stanford. I think they are going to have to start being able to make tough throws and complete them, or they're just not going to be able to keep up with this really talented Dartmouth team.
I think the question for them right now, at least in my mind, is are they going to be able to score without a majority of their top four offensive players on the field? And Hallie Dunham, Monisha White, Caitlin Goh, and Courtney Gegg. In the couple of points where they've taken off 2-3 of those players, their offense has gotten very stagnant. They really need those throwers and cutters to get things moving. Meanwhile, Dartmouth has sent out most of their top players point after point. Angela Zhu taking this one off, but Verzu, Curtis, Warfully, Lee, all out there with Eisner, Maggie Pizzo, and Hardebeck.
Dangerous pass there.
White looking at Dunham.
Caught the defender watching the Dunham and not the disc.
Here's the attack as they catch them trying to transition out of that initiating zone and have gained a lot of yardage. Ekstrom giving and going there with Sandino. Now Dartmouth starting to match up. Go. Pick call downfield, but a turnover in the backfield.
I was just getting ready to talk about Dartmouth's marks being effective, and the wide mark there may have helped create that turnover.
Dangerous situation for Superfly here. Already in a two-break hole, and Dartmouth's defense has the disc now. See if they can break through the zone without Zhu. Nice job by Warfully and Eisner to gain a lot of yardage. Lee catches it, but really doesn't even look to move the disc. And takes a difficult throw over the top, but you have leeway to do that with Jacqueline Verju in the end zone.
That's a great point for Dartmouth. One possession. Jacqueline Verju getting the job done. And it's a 5-2 lead.
And
take a look at the replay here.
You can see Lee Stall count's rising, and Verzu with just a little bit of space. You just throw it high and over the top, and just got all the ability to go get it. But I think that really the play that freed them up was Werfele and Eisner getting the disc out of that trap situation. And I think if Stanford's going to stick with this zone, which I would be surprised to see them do, it's going to be those non-scoring throws that open up the field that are the most valuable and important plays for Dartmouth's offense. Stanford reeling a bit here now, trailing by 3 breaks. But they've been in some tough situations so far this season and this tournament, Charlie.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to pick up the intensity and the attacking mindset a little bit. They've looked a little sluggish on defense the last couple points, and they have certainly not looked comfortable on offense. And at times, maybe not attacking the disc as much as you'd like to see, not making those hard undercuts. And they're going to need to start to find some of that in order to be able to get back into this game. But not a good start on this point as the Monisha White throw sails too high.
And Zhu with the exact same execution error, but on her forehand. Wind gusting a bit and affecting even these elite throwers.
The wind has been swirly all weekend, and right now it's shifted to a crosswind coming from behind the camera across to the far side of the field.
Great throw by White to get it across the field to Harris. Now, White into the middle to McGee. Not a lot of yardage gain by Stanford, mostly horizontal movement, but maybe wearing out the defense. And an inside break from White finds Gegg. This Gegg and Verzu matchup, highly anticipated. Two of the best athletes in the women's college division. And a drop there from Stanford. These execution errors, they just can't afford them at this point.
Brutal drop. But the problem is not so much the drops and the throwaways, that they're not getting space. They don't have no room to make continuation cuts right now.
Foul call downfield, just some contact between Harris and Verzu on a cut. Verzu goes down. And as you hear the horn to start the other quarterfinals here in Ohio.
So the other 6 games getting underway.
The other 1-2 matchup in the men's division happening just behind us, Pittsburgh and UMass. Another number 1 overall seed versus number 2 overall seed, just like we've got here. As Verzu goes into the end zone to Zhu in traffic, and Dartmouth is all over Stanford right now. 4 straight goals. That makes it 6-2 in favor of Dartmouth.
And Stanford's going to have to figure out some adjustments on offense. Right now, they're running the vertical stack. That's their bread and butter, but they're not getting much out of it. You see the stack maybe at times too close. So we take another look at the scoring play as Verzu moves the mark and then throws the backhand through, threading the needle to Angela Zhu. I might be interested to see Stanford try a horizontal. We're going to see a timeout taken here by Stanford. Maybe a chance for the coaching staff to talk about some of the adjustments that they want to make on offense.
It's also a chance for us to talk about one of our sponsors. This timeout is presented by Disc Store. Head over to discstore.com to get your next team jerseys for just $15 each with the promo code ULTIWORLD. Limited time offer, folks. Now, Charlie, this Stanford team in pool play went down 5-0 to Ohio State, the 5 seed in their pool. They came back to win that game. And really, from talking to our reporters about conversations with Stanford after that game, they didn't really feel like they were out of it at any point. They felt like they were still going to win that game. I don't know if they had that same feeling against this top-end Dartmouth team.
I think you see, going down 5-0, that's the offense struggling and Ohio State taking advantage. And once Stanford finally got a hold and got their defense out on the field, they clamped down and rallied back quickly into the game. The question is, can you get that same kind of quick comeback against a team like Dartmouth? I think the answer is no. They're going to have to get back into this game slowly and steadily by continuing to play good defense, which I think they have so far, but also finding a way to start making the right plays on offense, finding the space, attacking the cuts, and making the right throw.
I mean, I think that the way their offense has been playing, you're right, not getting a lot of great yardage gaining opportunities, which is why I think these unforced errors are so punishing. If you're not going to get a lot of chances to get off clean throws, you have to catch and complete the ones that you do. And side stack from Stanford, again stymied by this Dartmouth poach, but they transition effectively. And you can see all the Dartmouth cutters are close to this open side sideline. Finally, a great break throw opens it up. Vertical stack now from Stanford, resetting to White. White with Sarah Colon on the mark.
Stanford looking a little crisper with their cuts. Great move there from Anne-Marie Gordon.
I think this may be Jacqueline Verge's first point off right now, and Courtney Geggs are going to take advantage with a forehand huck up to Caitlin Go and just over her head.
You can see Gegg throw her head back in frustration. She's had a couple mistakes with that forehand up the line, and they were in great position. That was great flow from Stanford, maybe for the first time this game, but another mistake cost them at the end of the possession.
So Dartmouth, an opportunity to stake out a 5-goal lead, which against them feels insurmountable. So Stanford really facing down an extremely difficult position. Tall task for this number 1 overall seed. Zhu holding. And knowing that she's always going to have an uncontested reset, Zhu gets the ability to scan the field for anywhere from 4 to 8 seconds to see if there's an over-the-top throw, to see if she can fight something through the front wall of this zone. Because she knows when she turns around, she's going to have a reset without anybody in her way. So she's able to scan the field. That's a dangerous thing to give a thrower of her caliber. Now, no Verzu for her to target downfield, however. So the handlers have basically only thrown to each other through this possession.
And now they trap a bit on the sideline.
This has been one of the places that their defense has looked its most dangerous, but nice job by Dartmouth to work out of it. Zhu catches one, past a swiping Gegg. Now Werfele moving towards the sideline. This is where Stanford wants to pin them, but the throw gets off. Maybe these Stanford defenders running out of gas.
They look tired. Courtney Gegg had a chance to seal off the swing pass there, but she was jogging, and Dartmouth switched the field.
I mean, you can see this front wall of the defense is starting to feel the fatigue. Still running here, but just don't have the speed, and now a chance to trap. Piper Curtis with the disc. Gegg smothering Werfele, and a big loss of yardage as Harris gives up that space to Eisner.
But Shayla Harris is needlessly watching the disc there instead of sealing up the reset. If she had stuck the reset, they probably generated turnover.
I mean, these players have been running in this cup for 2-3 minutes right now, maybe 4, and Harris, Go, and Gegg have all played quite a few points in this first half. Sure, it's the first half of the day, but this is a high-level play, and you can see it's taking its toll. Zhu now with the disc in the middle of the field. Stubbornly sticking with it. Stanford gets a swing, but Gegg not able to beat Eisner to it. Werfele finds a hole up the middle. Harderback. Back to Zoo.
This is really a crucial point for Stanford. They've got to get a block with Verjus on the bench.
I love the patience from Dartmouth, though. They are not taking anything they don't need here. And Eisner goes into the end zone, past a bidding White. May Hardebeck with the goal, and the streak continues here for Dartmouth. 5 straight goals. They lead 7-2.
And Stanford looking exhausted after that point. That's deflating. With Dartmouth's best player on the sideline, they patiently, comfortably work the disc through the open resets and then find the hole, flipped into the end zone, and a great catch from Hardebeck for the goal. And timeout, Dartmouth now, as they have a chance to set up a break for half.
And this timeout is presented by Disc Store. DiscStore.com does more than discs. For live viewers only, get your next team jerseys starting at $15 each with the promo code ULTIWORLD. Email jerseys at DiscStore.com to receive the exclusive offer. How do you feel about this timeout here from Dartmouth? They're on a big roll. They've got Stanford on their heels, exhausted, but a chance to set up a score that could virtually end this game.
Well, I actually really like the timeout because you're the coaching staff. You get to go in there, Eugene Yum, Laura Bitterman, talk to the players and say, listen, we're up 5. We're up big, but we can't let off the gas. This is a chance for us to go out and really put the pressure on Stanford by getting this break, taking half with a big lead. And they know they can win this game. They've won this game before against Stanford. And the difference really is that you just don't want your players to relax. You want to stay aggressive and finish the game quickly. That's another thing that an element that could be really important later in the weekend as they have to play, of course, in a semifinal if they win this one.
Particularly potentially important today with these semifinal rounds not that far away. Some teams will get a long rest, but others will only get a few hours to collect themselves. The other quarterfinals are underway. Most have gotten through their first 4 or 5 points. That's 4 or 5 goals that Stanford trails by right now as they initiate up to Harris. On this wide side, really short cut from Sandino. Gets the disc into the middle of the field. White and Dunham going to work behind the disc. But just not a lot going on downfield right now. Inside break from Dunham, caught by Thompson on the second effort catch.
And Verjus is just poaching aggressively off of Gegg, who's just standing in the stack.
Well, now Gegg's taking off deep. And Harris's throw off the hands of Thompson, but Go lays out to save it. Caitlin Go, they call her Pop-Tart. She looks like she came right out of the toaster oven on that one.
Yeah, great catch. And a catch that they need right now. They need to make some plays. All of the plays have been going Dartmouth's way.
The observer ruling that the disc was up there on Go's catch. Go checks in with Hardebeck on the mark. Very nice defense from Ella Zanitas on Dunham, but Go finds a second option in White. And again, Zanitas takes Dunham out of the play, and now White at a high stall count and finds Go with the offhand backhand.
Oh,
and a saving grab there, digging it out. The stoppage downfield.
And another down call that I think is going to be overruled. I really would like to see observers actively making the up-down calls. There's no reason for the game to stop in a situation like that if they're just going to make the ruling at the end of the day anyway.
Now White with the disc and another high stall situation. Dartmouth's defense is really starting to put the pressure on. I think there was a contact call to reset the count, and now a foul call by White against Caitlin Lee.
Well, Caitlin Lee very aggressive on the mark, and she's probably fouled Monisha White 3 or 4 times just on this one mark. And she's going to have to be a little bit more disciplined.
The sophomore breaking out this year, but has a real challenge in front of her in trying to defend Monisha White. It's a Callahan finalist. Dunham manages to find a few inches of room away from Ellis Anitas, who has been stapled to her this entire point. Gegg holding the disc on the break side, just a yard away from the end zone, and gets it back to White. And her inside throw finds go. Stanford with a much-needed hold there to make it 7-3.
Critical hold. And really, that's an upwind hold. Wind again shifting a bit. It's been crosswind at times. It's been up-down at times. And that's really a hold into the wind. See it again. Gegg gets the reset off. Monisha White waits and goes with the inside flick for the goal.
I love the way that she steps forward to deliver that inside forehand, pivots hard to the backhand side to move the mark, and then when she comes back, rather than taking a really long step all the way to the other side of her body, she instead takes a forward angle with that foot so that she can throw the pass out in front of her receiver. Nice job by White showing off the throwing fundamentals that she possesses and why she is one of the top handlers in the women's division. Go with her second goal there of this game. Has been very involved in this Stanford offense. And she's a Seattle youth player who's made her way into this Stanford system over the years, and now trying to get her team back to a national championship game after Stanford won the title last year. No program in Women's College Ultimate is more decorated than this Stanford program.
Be very interesting to see how Stanford attacks as the pull gets away.
And if that doesn't give you a little bit of adrenaline coming down to the pull, I don't know what will.
And they are again going with the matchup defense on most of the players, but a poach deep from Monisha White.
And it generates a turn. High throw there to Hardebeck, and she can't bring it in before going out of bounds. So Stanford with a chance to break. They have been unable to capitalize on any earlier opportunities like this one. Can Michelle McGee and this D-line offense get into the end zone?
They have a strong D-line out there with some good offensive players. Great chance here for Stanford.
Undercut from Go. Towards the end zone for Gegg. She wanted to bid for that, but Curtis coming on strong from behind to get the block. Great defensive play by Piper Curtis.
Excellent defense off the backside, but with a better throw, that's an easy goal. And that's just been the problem for Stanford today. They just not executed on the throws that they need into the tighter windows.
And maybe it's just the tight pressure of these individual situations. So few opportunities for Stanford to make those kinds of plays, and maybe they're feeling the pressure of a strong Dartmouth team breathing down their neck. Now here's Zoo looking to put up a big shot, but Gegg able to contest it. Harris lay out against Versu, and I don't know how she came up with it, but somehow gets to it first, and then hand blocked by Harris, but a foul call there.
And that was close.
Verzu maybe a bit too casual trying to throw that backhand to the forehand side, and stuffed by Harris, but uncontested it looks like. And a low throw from Verzu, caught by a bidding Angela Zhu. Now here's Zhu looking to huck to Verzu. It hangs, and she still goes up and gets it. A singular talent, folks. And she immediately gets up, throws a backhand from her knees to space. Jacqueline Verjus putting it all on display to take us to halftime. Dartmouth 8-3 up on Stanford.
And this word gets thrown around a lot in Ultimate, but that is an unstoppable play. That is just an absolutely unstoppable play. Angela Zhu, high stall situation, just has to throw it up. It's essentially a punt, and Jacqueline says, I'll take that. And then hauls it in and then just bombs a perfect backhand assist.
The fact that she was able to do both so smoothly and in such a compressed amount of time just tells you everything you need to know about why everyone's talking about Jacqueline Verjus.
8-3 lead for Dartmouth at the break. We're going to take a break as well. We'll be back in 10 minutes for the start of the second half.
Welcome back to Ultiworld's live coverage of the D1 Division I Championships here in Mason, Ohio. Presented to you by VC Ultimate. VC Ultimate believes in equity in sport. VC is proud to exclusively sponsor Ultiworld's women's division coverage. We sure are thankful to have them on board. And Dartmouth fans are probably pretty thankful of a 5-goal lead spotted going into the half. And really, Dartmouth turning the tide in part with some remarkable defensive tactics. They're doing a great job on defense, putting a lot of pressure on this Stanford team, but also in part because they've got the best player on the field and by a large margin.
Yeah, and we were talking about it at halftime, Keith. When Stanford has made mistakes, they've paid for them. And when Dartmouth has made mistakes, a lot of times it's been Jacqueline Verjou bailing them out. And they see the difference in the scoreboard. 8-3, big lead here for Dartmouth. It doesn't feel completely impossible for Stanford to get back in it, but they're going to have to start executing a lot better. We've been talking about it throughout the first half. You have to just be able to hit those throws, and that hasn't been there for Stanford.
It's unfair, Charlie. It's unfair to have her playing on your team. It's like, I don't know, trying to play somebody in Monopoly, but they start with $10,000.
Cheat code.
Yeah.
Well, get used to her because she's going to be around for quite a while on this Dartmouth team. Just a sophomore.
Unreal. And she's going to get a touch here on an undercut. Curtis streaking deep, and Verjou with a perfect forehand for her. We've talked in the past about maybe that being one of the holes in her game, and Verjou plugging it up with a dime throw to Piper Curtis.
Yeah, and it's just another poor execution from Stanford because you have Monisha White hanging out in the backfield as the last back, and she gets simply beat deep. You see her trying to come off the weak side. She lays out but never has a chance as Curtis hauls it in.
Yeah, I mean, also showing off the speed of Piper Curtis, a varsity soccer recruit for Dartmouth and former U20 player. And honestly, it's funny that you look at Curtis and Juliana Werfele, and if they were on another team, they would be the best players on the team and they'd be stars on that team. And not to say that they don't contribute in massive ways to this Dartmouth team, but just it's hard to get away from just how incredibly talented Jacqueline Verjou is and Angela Zhu is as well.
I mean, there's certainly lots of talent on this Dartmouth team, but I think it's very clear to see that Jacqueline Verjou is responsible for at least 2 or 3 of the points in this game single-handedly. She had the huge possession saving grab early in the game, and then, of course, as they took half, she massively roofs a pile and, without hesitation, steps into a perfect backhand assist. And now we just watch her throw a beautiful 50-yard forehand for an easy score.
That was her 4th assist of the game. She also got a pair of goals and some plays that won't make the stat sheet, but that's because of her. Those plays go on the stats as turnovers if Jacqueline Verjou isn't in the neighborhood. So a stoppage on the field. Monisha White has the disc. Caitlin Lee on the mark, and Stanford facing a big deficit. High stall there, but White finds Thompson. Dish back to White. This is power position for a big thrower. Nice job to step around and use the break side by White. Up ahead to Gegg, just outside the end zone. And Gegg tries to go around for the backhand, and it looks like a lot of contact from Verjou is going to bring back that one. Stanford gets a hold there. Checked in, and Gegg just comes back to the other side of the field to hit her captain, Deanna Abrams, for the score.
Well, nice work by Gegg. Patient, looks to the break side, eventually sees an open side cutter and makes a good throw to slice it in there.
That was a nice hold for Stanford. We haven't seen a lot of possessions go that smoothly for them. But Go clears out the space, and Abrams just beats her defender to the space.
When it's a long road back into this game for Stanford, but it has to start with just one break. They don't have one in this game. And talked after they got their first hold of the game how that maybe would help develop some belief. They're going to need to now get a break to develop some belief that they're going to be able to score against this Dartmouth O-line.
And I have to say that this is a surprising turn of events, Charlie. Each of us had picked one of these teams to win the national championship prior to the tournament. Each of us had one of these teams in the finals and both in the semifinals. The beginning of the year, before the spring, you asked me about who I thought would win the title, and I said it was virtually impossible we'd see a team that wasn't Dartmouth, Stanford, or Whitman, and they have made me look pretty dumb. Whitman didn't even qualify for nationals, and obviously one of these two teams will be eliminated in quarterfinals. So I say that less to mock myself and more to point out how surprising some of the results have been despite last year's successes for these teams.
Call on the field, possibly a pick. Hard to see how any pick call would affect this play with Verju totally wide open.
And we've seen this before, right? Zhu throws over the top and gets behind the defense. And now Monisha White has to play 3-on-1 if this stays in the hands of Jacqueline Verju. And White's good, but I don't know about that good. Observers trying to suss out what's going on.
Unfortunately, not very clear what's happening. There must have been some kind of continuation issue. So whatever call happened came before the pass to Zhu.
I wouldn't
Still
be
appears
surprised
to be some confusion.
to see her to see Angela Zhu attack the same space. Verju seems to have a lot of room to roam still to her left shoulder.
So it's finally determined that the stall count is going to be 4.
And she does go right to the same throw, but Stanford likewise sees it coming. White's able to get in there and help force a turn.
I think the pump fake may be a better choice there. Move the defense, open up something else, and don't throw it to where everyone is expecting you to.
I don't know, man. They've thrown some pretty wacky stuff Jacqueline Verju's way, and it's worked out anyway. So maybe her best option is throw anything humanly possible to her. Harris putting up a high throw to Gegg, and excellent defense from Angela Zhu to high point the disc and fight off Gegg to keep her from getting over her shoulders.
Just an elite defender, too. You don't talk about that much with Angela Zhu, but she is excellent on defense, and Gegg has to do a better job of holding her position and using her bigger frame to be able to make that catch.
Morphley finds Zhu up the line, and I like this decision from Stanford to put Gegg on Zhu. She's just so lengthy, and you can see how hard it is for Zhu to get off great throws, but what can you do against Jacqueline Verju? It looks like nothing.
Monisha White is giving it her all, but unfortunately right now it's just not enough against Jacqueline Verju and this Dartmouth team. And she may now have hurt herself on the layout.
That was a huge layout in an attempt to recover. putting her body through the ringer to try and keep Stanford in this game, but Jacqueline Bergier just simply too much. Eisner just muscling a forehand over to Zanitas, and it extends the lead to 10-4.
And I think you're really seeing the same kinds of issues that plagued Stanford in their matchup against Dartmouth at the Stanford Invite. They really don't have an option to cover Verjus. And really, most teams don't. But you see they're running a scheme designed specifically to take that element out of the game. And they're throwing to Verjus anyway, and she's coming down with it in contested situations with a deep waiting for it. And what are you going to do if you're Stanford? There are no other options. There are no other options. So unless they can capitalize on every single turnover they get from here on out, it's hard to see them climbing back into the game.
One area that maybe you could try and attack this Dartmouth offense is at the throw. If they could maybe take a step off on the mark, try and make the throws even worse, although we've basically seen her catch the worst throws that her teammates have to offer in some cases. So you just can't make mistakes, and they're securing the catch for the Stanford hold is Bridget Connor. The grad student gets Stanford another hold. The offense looking a little bit more effective in the second half.
Definitely, Keith. And I think if there is hope, it's that the offense is getting off the field in a hurry and letting the defense get back out there.
Take another look.
Again, the great break throw from Hallie Dunham, and that opens up a continuation break side pass into the end zone to Connor.
And really, it's going to be, can they get the breaks? The holds are nice. They're good to see. They make you more confident, but Stanford's going to need breaks and lots of them. Need to place a big order if they want to advance into the semifinals and continue their season.
Lots of other quarterfinal action happening right now. You can follow along on our live blog and all our live Twitter updates at ultiworld.com/live. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday morning. If you're up early on the West Coast, thanks for getting up with us, having some coffee, hopefully.
Dartmouth's offense back underway here against the Stanford zone, and they have Angela Zhu and company nearing the sideline. And again, I want to examine a potential adjustment for Stanford, especially with Courtney Gegg, who's such a difficult player to throw around. I'd like to see her take a step off on the mark, maybe two, especially when Angela Zhu has the disc. She's been the best deep thrower on this Dartmouth team, and want to make it harder for her to get off those throws. The pressure of a tight mark is great, but sometimes the range of a wide mark can be even more effective at stopping big downfield throws. Here's a big crossfield throw from Curtis to Lee.
You can really see the difference in the crispness of the throws between the two teams. Dartmouth has been in some tough situations on the sideline, and they've just made great throws to get out of them.
Still that smothering mark from Gegg, but you'd like to, I still just like to try out maybe taking a step or two off, especially on Zhu. Just mix it up a little bit, but this Stanford coaching staff has obviously come in with a well-designed plan, but Superfly just hasn't been able to execute. Now in a good situation as they pressure a couple resets, but Curtis comes back as a release valve for Zoo. But Dartmouth walking back now a little bit. A little more pressure on the resets is forcing the throwers to take a different tack. Zoo patiently finding options though. She just doesn't get flustered, but there doesn't get a good throw from her teammate, and Rosemary Santino is able to break it up.
Well, this is a huge chance for Stanford. They've got to show the ability to score with their D-line out there. And there's some kind of call from the sideline.
I think that maybe a player on the sideline tried to call that out, and the observer warning them about communicating with the field. It's unclear to me.
Yeah, I think there may have been fan interference there.
There's a Dartmouth fan adorned in a Princess Leia costume as Gegg goes to the end zone, but it's dropped by Anne-Marie Gordon as she bids to catch it.
And it just seems like Stanford is snake bit, because that's a good throw from Gegg. Not an easy catch, but one you have to make, especially in this situation. That's for a break, and they give it back to Dartmouth.
I mean, part of it has been that they are not doing a great job securing the disc. We've seen them bobble at least 4 or 5 throws this game. Many of them they managed to catch on the second effort, but those should be easy catches. And the Stanford has just rarely looked in their comfort zone during this game.
From the very first point of the game, they have looked uncomfortable. I think that's exactly the right way to describe it, Keith.
And it's shocking because this is a team that won the national championship last year, and many of those title winners are back for this team. Monisha White, Courtney Gegg, Anne-Marie Gordon, Sandino, Harris, McGee, Go, White. The list goes on and on. But a dramatic change in results staring Superfly in the face right now as they trail Dartmouth by 5 in this quarterfinal. So, a wealth of touches still for Zoo and Werfele. Had to have thrown 100 passes to each other for a total of 8 yards this game. But resetting the count, valuable when you've got such talented throwers. And there, Verzu's forehand a little low. She is human. And a turnover for Dartmouth.
So a second chance for a Stanford break here. But even resets looking tough for Superfly.
I mean, it's hard to stay in it at this point. You're tired. Sometimes even your best defense has not worked. It's tough to stay with it. Now after the turnover, Dartmouth gives it back. Crossfield swing a little too low. Love the idea from Michelle McGee to attack now. No reason to wait. Wide open Anne-Marie Gordon downfield. Sandino gives her something to space. Gordon slowing it down a little bit. And McGee's throw is caught by Gegg. Gegg give it and go with Caitlin Go. Now Go looking to reset. Caitlin Lee, excellent defense on Monisha White.
Great defense from Caitlin Lee.
And that's a D Lee is going to get without getting on the stat sheet there.
That's phenomenal lock-up coverage from Caitlin Lee on Monisha White.
Charlie, we haven't had our awards conversation yet, but it feels like Caitlin Lee's got Breakout Player of the Year sewn up. She's had a remarkable year, and the sophomore has been a huge help for these experienced teammates she has on this Dartmouth squad.
And she's really won the matchup with maybe the best player on Stanford and Monisha White.
Curtis going to the end zone for another Dartmouth score.
And the chances keep coming for Stanford, and they keep slipping away. As Dartmouth puts in another goal, up by 6. And it's just maybe too little too late at this point for Stanford. I mean, they get a couple of blocks on that point. They get all the way to the red zone, and they can't finish. Verzu flips it off, and it's an easy continue up the line into the end zone.
Freshman Alexa Wing coming up with the goal there. And Dartmouth opts to take a timeout, but this is a long walk back to the line for Stanford. This timeout is presented to you by Disc Store. DiscStore.com does more than discs. For live viewers only, get your next team jerseys starting at $15 each with promo code ULTIWORLD. Email jerseys@discstore.com to receive this exclusive offer.
I'm going to catch you up with some scores from around the field complex.
I'd love that.
Quarterfinals are happening right now. Starting in the women's division, Texas is up 7-5 on UCLA. In the other game that started at 8, UBC has a big lead on Virginia, 12-7. Looking for some other scores. Taking a look at the men's division, UNC Wilmington leading 6-4 in their game against Washington. UMass at last look up 6-3 on Pittsburgh. Wisconsin, surprising 8-3 lead on UNC.
That is a big shocker. UNC, one of the favorites to win the national championship in the men's division. But Wisconsin has come to this tournament ready to play.
The North Central teams have looked very good this weekend. There's a North Central matchup in quarters as well. Minnesota taking on Carleton. Minnesota up in that game 5-3 at last update. So you can just keep up with all of these scores on ultiworld.com/live. If you're enjoying our coverage this weekend, please consider supporting our work and our journalism with a subscription. We're in the middle of a subscription drive. We really need your help in order to help continue the work that we do. We have a big team here at Nationals, and every little bit helps. You can go to ultiworld.com/subscribe to learn more.
Allie Dunham and Monisha White advance the offense for Stanford. An offhand break from White helps break open this defense, and Harris gets a couple of quick yards. Now they are nearing the end zone, and another hold, but at a high stall. Harris is forced to throw a hammer to the back of the line. It's caught by Thompson, but a stall call by Eisner may bring this play back.
And the players discussing. Appears the stall is contested. We'll see if they send it to the observers.
It's been a long time since Stanford's gone a break and made a big play like that. It'd be great to inject some energy in them. They are looking emotionally just wrecked by the power that Dartmouth has used to just run over them. So Harris has to keep it, but a tricky high release offhand backhand immediately after the disc is tapped in, but it's dropped by her target, Connor.
I think that's maybe the 5th drop we've seen from Stanford today, and you just can't have that against a team as good as Dartmouth.
You can see how that's shown up on the scoreboard. Stanford trailing by 6, 11-5. And really it's clear to them that the end of their season is very near. Zhu holding, resetting with Eisner. Dartmouth just working with short throws here. Comfortable taking these resets until something opens up, but got to move somebody somewhere. The defense is basically standing still. Now, throw it to the sideline towards Lee. Lee resets to Eisner. And this Dartmouth team doesn't look like the one that played in a pre-quarter yesterday. High throw there, and just cleaned up by Rizzu. Cleans up any mess.
And I think it's a good lesson for younger players, people who want to study the game. Stanford hasn't done a good job of boxing out or getting their bodies into a position to stop Verju from making those kinds of plays, as Dartmouth catches on the line so that it's out of bounds. And that's Verju's had a clean path to disc, and you can't give her that. She's just too big and too strong, and we see that she's been able to make those plays consistently.
Verju has had a remarkable influence on this game, and you could see why she is a Player of the Year candidate as just a sophomore. Now matched up with Allie Dunham. She was the Rookie of the Year last year, while Verju was the runner-up. And Dunham gets the assist to Gegg, trying to fire her team up, trying to keep them in it. Is there one last push in this Superfly team?
Soft cap approaching. Five-point lead for Dartmouth. Stanford yet to break at any point in the game. They've looked a lot better on offense in this second half. They've not been broken in the second half, but the big four-break run they gave up in the first half proving costly.
That was Courtney Gegg's first goal, Charlie, which is odd to say for a prolific scorer such as herself. She has been one of the top scoring players at Nationals for each of the past 2 seasons, as Stanford has advanced to the finals in both of those years. So, as a college player, in her entire, and in fact, in Courtney Gegg's entire ultimate career, she's never not advanced to the finals. And it looks likely that that streak will end, barring an incredible comeback from Superfly. Team this good, you don't want to write them off yet, but Dartmouth has held control of this game since its beginning. Just broke to start this game and never really looked back.
Well, does Stanford have some magic left? Coming off of a national championship a year ago, they're going to have to dig deep with their small roster, find a way to not just generate turnovers, but generate scores. Try to climb back in.
I know we've talked about it all game, but the impact of Verzu downfield in particular, but also Werfele and Zhu as throwers, is that Stanford has had to warp their defensive scheme in a way that they have to give something up, and a lot of times it's been these resets. They basically have had to completely forfeit defending them in order to commit more resources downfield to try and stop these plays, but there's just nothing to be done. Jacqueline Verju has done what we always feared, which is become unstoppable. You said it's an overused term in Ultimate, and it is, because most players are stoppable you can literally stop them at some point. And that has not been the case for Jacqueline Verjus in this game. Literally unstoppable. The worst case scenarios take place, and she gets the disc anyway.
Zhu putting up the big backhand, trusting Verjus to make the play. And again, Monisha White just does not quite have the size to match up with Verjus one-on-one. Soft cap went on during that point. We were just informed by the Observer, so this will be a game to 14.
I know, Charlie, that you were critical of Verjus' ability, of Stanford's ability to box out Verjus, but I think you can see right there she's not going to let you in a lot of cases. I mean, you're talking about a bigger, stronger player than anybody else on the field, and so even if Stanford's trying to accomplish that, Verjus is fighting enough to make sure that they can't do that. And in some cases, even when she's been completely out of position, she's just gone over Stanford defenders in front of her.
It's true. And Monisha White's doing her best. And this is a player, you said it earlier in the broadcast, Keith, that is one of the best deep defenders. I mean, this is her role. She is the deep in the zone. And this is a zone that won them a national championship. Remember last year in the final, they were struggling early against Whitman. They switched to zone, completely changed the game, and rattled off breaks as they came back and won that easily at the end of the day. But here, there's just they don't have an answer for Jacqueline Verjus.
I don't know that there is one. I mean, if a player like Courtney Gegg and a zone defense designed to stop the deep throw and a deep defender like Monisha White aren't the answer, I just don't know that there is one. Although I guess you ask Oregon, they'd probably smirk and remain silent.
Yeah, it's 15-10 win for Oregon over Dartmouth yesterday.
That's another nice hold for Stanford. Keeps their hopes alive.
Well, they're doing their best to keep their energy up. They've not given up. That much is clear. They have not been broken in the second half. But the hole may be too deep at this point.
And I'd like to take a moment to, as we take a look at this play from Stanford, to remark on Shayla Harris's development as a thrower. She's thrown some very nice throws in tough conditions this game, and as an offensive player, she has developed in a big way. She's just a junior, so she'll be back next year, but she is a really dynamic player if she could open up that offensive skill set, because she's got a ton of athleticism. She's a shutdown defender.
Just a note, there is a hard cap in this game. There are no hard caps on the semis or finals, but there are indeed hard caps in the quarterfinals. So in about 18 minutes from now, the hard cap will go on. So there's not only the pressure of not allowing Dartmouth to get to 14, but also the pressure of getting back into the game quickly enough in order to not get shut out by the hard cap.
So the pole goes up to Dartmouth and fielded after some shenanigans. Oh, and Curtis's backhand fake catches her mark, Michelle McGee, in the face. Looks like she's okay. But she shakes it off. And we will get you round of score updates at the next opportune moment, because there are some surprising results going on in the quarterfinals here at the Division I College Championships. Worfley goes up to Zanitas. Now here's Worfley looking for Zhu. Well defended by Gegg. Here's another jump ball for Verjus, and even she can't make the sidelines move. And that one goes out of bounds. So finally, Stanford able to get a turn. So many of Dartmouth's mistakes have just been completely erased by Verzu's influence. Now here's Shayla Harris coming underneath. Gegg does the same, and
a little bit of tentativeness, though.
Dartmouth doing a great job defending the deep space, though, and keeps forcing unders, and there Verzu just jumps the lane to block McGee's pass.
We've seen Verzu just patrolling the unders and poaching as much as she can. And I think the static nature of Stanford's offense has made it possible for her to poach without being punished for it.
Werfele up ahead to Curtis on the open side. White poaching in that lane, still helping out to try and stop these high throws. Cross field from Curtis. It's sometimes it's like they're just trying to test her. He tries to throw the back corner throw to Verzu, and it's like they're just trying to find out, like, can I throw this and she still catches it?
Another chance for Stanford.
They've yet to convert on these types of chances this game. Have yet to score on a defensive point. No breaks. Really showing some skill with that offhand, backhand. A number of those going up. And here's another Gegg Huck. And Amory Gordon fights through the contact and a near drop to complete it. Dishes back to Gegg, and then that one is too low, and it's another squandered opportunity by Stanford.
Snake bit. I mean, Gegg makes a beautiful forehand huck and then has to make a 5-yard pass, and she can't do it.
Now Zoo swinging it over to Werfele and back to Curtis. Another offensive opportunity for Dartmouth. I mean, this has been some of the best opportunities Stanford's gotten all game, and they still have not been able to convert. Zoo still dutifully marching as a reset handler. She's played almost every point in this game and still looks fresh. Verzu looking to the end zone, outside in forehand, but just a little too far in front of Caitlin Lee, whose bid cannot collect Dartmouth a score.
Third chance for Stanford. How many times have we watched their D-line take the disc all the way to the red zone and then fail to convert on the final throw? At least 4 or 5 times this game, and already once on this point.
Abrams
finally make some strides.
And now Sandino looking for an option. And again, I have to remark on the quality of the deep defense played by Dartmouth in this game. Stanford loves to put up the deep throw, but Dartmouth has not yielded much separation in those deep lanes at any point.
Good reset defense. Forces Zhu to a high stall throw, and it's over everybody's head.
So probably the longest point of the game. Multiple changes of possession in both directions. Stanford fighting to try and stay alive, trailing 12-7 and running out of opportunities and time. The clock is ticking here. Harris tries to fight one through, and again, Verzu's poaching presence makes the throw harder and goes uncaught. Now here's Zhu. Gegg doing her best to try and be an unpredictable mark, and now an outside in throw for Verzu, and oh my!
That is an unbelievable play. That may be the best play that I have seen all weekend.
I'm speechless. I don't know what to say.
Wow. And is there a call? No, I think there's just some discussion between the players after the point. That was unbelievable.
I don't know what to say. We're running out of superlatives. We've got to make that the B ultimate play of the game. That's like the B ultimate play of my life. That was incredible.
It was a back shoulder throw from Zhu Let's take another look.
I expect to see this on SportsCenter.
The stall getting high. Zhu has no option. She says, I'll throw it to the back shoulder of Verju. Verju totally out of position. Oh, no, I'll get that. Insane catch with the right hand on the trailing edge.
B Ultimate not only offers elite sublimated gear, but also Ultimate-specific pants, socks, hats, and more. Choose to be better than ever and check them out at BUltimate.com.
Once more, the B Ultimate play of the game. Jacqueline Verzu, you could pick any number of plays, but this is next level. Give me the rock.
Her legend grows.
I just haven't seen a play like that all weekend.
You just
in either division. That was insane.
You can't say enough as Dartmouth goes way offsides on the pull. You can't say enough. I mean, this is a generational talent. You may be looking at what's going to turn out to be the best player to ever play the game.
You think so? You think that she could be the greatest player of all time?
I mean, she not right now, but how can you say that someone who's 20 years old and can do that doesn't have the potential to reach that sort of mountain? I mean, she's playing in elite club championships and world championships at such a young age. If she can stay healthy, I think that's probably the biggest obstacle. More than anything else will be if she can survive the amount of punishment her body takes.
She's proven to be very durable so far in her career. Of course, played a lot in high school as Caitlin Lee comes through with the layout block. And yeah, I agree, Keith. I think the potential is certainly there. And we've seen every skill set on display in this game.
I get that it sounds outlandish, but she's doing things no one else can do. There, Caitlin Lee, though, coming up with a big block underneath on Gegg, who has a lot of height on her and plenty of speed as well. You can see why Caitlin Lee is in line for a lot of recognition as that disc bounces off the hands of Hardebeck, trying to toe it in on the second ever catch, but a little too far. And we haven't talked much about this yet, but this Dartmouth team not going anywhere. Verzu's coming back, Lee's coming back, and they're picking up perhaps the best freshman in the recruiting class of next year, Claire Trope.
Another Seattle product. Played with Verju in high school.
A big bid from Thompson trying to catch that throw, and I think she may have knocked the wind out of her. Gasping for air, and most of us have felt that at some point. Tries to take a moment to calm herself.
Yeah, came down hard. Just lost her breath for a moment.
So Thompson will take a sub. Anne-Marie Gordon enters the game. So the disc will go Dartmouth's way. Lily Eisner gets ready to pick up. Again, the trap zone there, and it pays off. Harris able to break up the reset throw. And I talked about this a little bit in the first half, but one of the things that's impressed me most about this Stanford team is their ability to transition into zone defense in just seconds. Even when the opposition catches the turnover, they've been able to switch modes with true quickness. There, Monisha White's offhand backhand pushed back to the earth by the wind. Now, the Dartmouth offense back to work, but Lee rushing a backhand, and it sails out of bounds, catching some air as well.
Well, and that Jacqueline Verjou catch just sucked all of the wind out of any Stanford comeback potential. And we've kind of entered a slogging point here, but Stanford finally marches through as Bonisha White fires a flick into the end zone for a hold. But with a 5-point deficit and only about 5 or 6 minutes until the hard cap, Dartmouth has wrapped this one up, and they're going to advance to the semifinals.
And a credit to Stanford's offense to find a way to plug the holes that were really just taking over in the first half. They've held on every offensive point in the second half, but just came too late. They gave up way too much ground to a team of this caliber. Well, if at this rate, Dartmouth will advance to the semifinals and will play the winner of British Columbia and Virginia. Get you some updated scores from the tournament here. UCLA trailing Texas 10-7 in their quarterfinal. Colorado up on Oregon, the team that defeated this Dartmouth team, the only team to do it at anywhere outside of the Northwest Challenge. Colorado up 10-8 on that Oregon team. The men's division, Wisconsin still leads North Carolina 10-7. Minnesota leads Carleton 8-7. And behind us, Massachusetts and Pittsburgh tied at 8-8. Zoo up ahead to Curtis with Gordon in coverage. And now uncovered Werfele as the deep poach stands back to try and stop some of these jump balls. Free resets, but the switching defense trying to force the Dartmouth offenders to make adjustments constantly to figure out who should be cutting, who should be active, and where the throwing lane is. And I like that this Stanford coaching staff was daring in their choices on defense. Not traditional choices to make, and this is a not traditional opponent.
I think they made the right choices. I think they had a good game plan, but I think that Stanford has just looked fatigued from the start of the game. They had a much tougher path to this game, really, than Dartmouth. Dartmouth did have to play in a pre-quarter, but they mostly won their games easily. They lost to Oregon, but as you talked about last night on our post-game wrap show on Facebook Live, Dartmouth may have just had a blip. And with that score, Dartmouth puts the exclamation point on this dominant win over Stanford, and they take it 14-8. An impressive performance, to say the least. Not a perfect performance from Dartmouth by any means. They're going to probably have to play better against competition coming up in the semis and finals if they want to win a championship, because they did have some points and moments in this game where they really didn't effectively score. I mean, we even saw towards the end here after that, on that play where Verjou made the incredible catch, that was not a smooth offensive point.
Yeah, you don't want to settle into relying on Jacqueline Verjou to bail you out of everything. Certainly, Caitlin Lee, Piper Curtis had really strong games. Great patience from the handler sets here, from Eisner, Werfele, and Zoo. But Dartmouth simply just too much to handle in this game, and hard to be too critical of what was a dominant performance over what many would have considered the best team in the field.
Stanford had many chances. They had many, many chances. They had the opportunities to get the breaks, and they just couldn't put it in. And it seemed like there were multiple times in the game where they had a red zone possession and they just missed the last throw. And you wonder how the game would have been different had they made some of those plays.
And, I mean, this was something you had to consider as soon as this matchup became a very realistic possibility. But if I had told you 4 months ago one of these teams would be out in quarterfinals, you never would have believed me. And here we are, the reigning national champion and two-time finalist is going to see their season end, and they will tie for 5th in the college division this season.
So what we're going to do right now, we're very lucky because we had the game staggered this round. So the game behind us, UMass versus Pittsburgh, is well underway and is an exciting game. Got to figure out what the score is, but we're going to actually turn our cameras around, reset ourselves, and bring you the majority of the second half of this game. So currently, thanks for sticking with us, and thanks so much for watching. We're really happy to be able to bring you some bonus coverage right now. And we send it over there now. It's UMass on offense, and Pittsburgh with a 9-8 lead. Pittsburgh was down by 3 breaks in the first half, came back and took half 8-7, and now I will send it over to Keith Rayner for play-by-play.
So we'll jump right in here as Benson Oak jumps right into a catch. But an injury perhaps, or a foul call on a earlier play may send this back on continuation. Got UMass in the whites, the number 1 overall seed. Pittsburgh in the darks, number 2 overall seed this year. Have really impressed after losing so many big names last year. Both of these teams really. Now, Jake Raddick looking for a reset and gets it to Brett Graman, and he dishes it to Tanner Johnson, the star sophomore cutter for this UMass team. Tie this game back up at 9.
And Tanner Johnson staring down his mark after he catches the score. UMass tying it up at 9. And an exciting one here. See it again, wide open strike cut, and then Tanner Johnson with the great explosion of speed takes a look over at his mark as he spikes the disc.
And Graman, we've seen this team play without him at points this year, and he really changes the offensive flow of the UMass men. Pittsburgh's O-line, a familiar cast of characters, heads onto the field.
And just to note, just to get everybody up to speed on what's going on, so it's 9-9. No cap yet in this game because, again, it started at 8:30, not at 8. That means that the soft cap is going to go on in about 12 minutes. So we'll keep you up to date on that. We should hear a horn when that does go off. And let's talk quickly about this matchup. Pittsburgh, phenomenal defensive team. They've been great. I mean, the D-line has really got them back in this game after their offensive line really gave up a bunch of breaks early in the first half. And if they're going to win this game and they're going to win other games at this tournament deeper in the bracket, it's going to come down to that D-line being able to continue to put the pressure on opposing offenses. This UMass team a little bit more balanced. A player of the year candidate, maybe the number 1 candidate coming in to nationals in Ben Sadok, the lefty fiery handler. Tanner Johnson, who we just saw score, also a big piece for them. And we see Jonah Wish bringing the disc to the brick mark for Pittsburgh, and he'll get things started for their offense.
Wish coming over to Dylan Best on the break side for a short gain, and now Best looking to reset. Dishes to Jack Slevin. Slevin, forehand hook, has Mike Ing with plenty of separation, and that's a walk-in for Ing. Slevin with the score, and now the Pittsburgh sideline has begun removing their clothing to celebrate. I don't know to what end, but they're fired up as the shirts and, in some cases, the shorts come flying off.
Well, I don't know if they'd let you do this on ESPN, but I think you can do it on Ultiworld. I'm not clear on whether this has been a celebration that they've done throughout the weekend or if this is something that we just tuned in for right now. Either way, the Slevin score deserves the strip down. And see the bomb forehand here. Perfectly weighted for Mike Ing.
And there's been so much talk over the past 2 seasons about sophomore Tanner Johnson, but sophomore Mike Ing, hot on his heels, is one of the best second-year players in the country, has become a remarkable defender, an exceptional cutter, and both played elite mix this past season in the club circuit. Ing with Philadelphia's AMP. Tanner Johnson won a trophy as a member of Slow White, helping lead them to their first ever club national championship. So the pole goes up. Fielded there by Nico Mueller, the international acquisition for this Massachusetts team. Mid-season signing, so to speak. Here's a big throw from Brett Gramman, and remarkably similar to the execution of Pittsburgh's offense. Tanner Johnson just walks it in for the catch. The close, however, stay on for UMass.
Brett Gramman, critical player for this team. Won Rookie of the Year 2 years ago after a stellar campaign with UMass. Had a bit of an off year last year, but has been big for the team.
Product of the Texas Youth Ultimate scene. Played with double wide club season, and has been an impact player for them, as you mentioned, since the start of his career, and has in many ways coincided with UMass's rise to the top of the men's division over the past couple of years. I mean, this was a team who wasn't in the national picture at all 5 years ago. Certainly in stark contrast to Pittsburgh, who was on a similar trajectory 7-8 years ago when they were just a regional level team, but have been a mainstay at the college championships and late in the bracket at nearly every elite tournament over the past few seasons.
And I'm not sure we mentioned this yet. This is a matchup between the number 1 and number 2 teams at the tournament. Just like the game we just watched between Stanford and Dartmouth, because Pittsburgh took a loss to UNC Wilmington, they had to play in a pre-quarter, and now they have to face the number 1 team here, Massachusetts. Right now, Pittsburgh in the driver's seat on offense with the score tied.
The winner of this game will advance to the quarterfinals to face the winner of Minnesota and Carleton. We'll keep you updated on all the scores we can here in the quarterfinals round. Mason, Ohio. If there are some of you just joining us, maybe fans of these two teams, I'm Keith Rayner, joined by Charlie Eisner in the booth, and this is UltiWorld's live coverage of the 2017 College Championships. So now the injury being resolved, and looks like Gramman's going to stay on the field, however. So looking to tough it out. Texas tough, that boy. So Thomas Edmonds, the first-year En-Saboneur handler after doing his undergraduate studies and playing with New Hampshire.
Edmonds has loved playing for Pittsburgh. Talked to him about how much he's appreciated how much he's learned under head coach Nick Kazmarek. And he's been an important part of the offense for Pittsburgh.
Slevin, the around break to Andrew Lemberg. Lemberg dishes up to Wish. And the junior handler finds Ing with an around backhand. Ing bids to save it, but a call downfield will stop play.
And Mike Ing has slowly and a little bit quietly become one of the best players on Pittsburgh. Only a sophomore. I expect Mike Ng to be a huge part of their success over the next couple of seasons.
He could be a Player of the Year candidate in 2018, Charlie.
I agree with that, Keith.
Jonah Wish looking to find a reset option. Edmonds squirming in the backfield, and a layout block for Massachusetts. Jared Medor using all of that 6'3" length to knock away the throw to Slevin. Now Mueller with the disc for UMass.
Nico Mueller, a late addition to the roster, but an important one, a captain of the German national team.
Oh, Mike Ng, folks, with a full extension fingertip block.
And that's the kind of layout block that some players just can't make. Getting that layout D on the under, that's the one that you have to be able to get if you want to be a high-level defender at this level, and he certainly is.
And earns this offense another chance at a hold. Layout grab there from Dylan Best. One of the vets of this O-line, has been cutting for Pittsburgh for a number of years, and he dishes over to Jimmy Toll. And Pittsburgh manages a hold and will keep their advantage, now leading 11-10.
Take a look here. Mueller sends the pass ahead. Mike Ng denies it.
And I'll tell you, I think one thing that I've noticed about Ng this year is he looks a lot faster than he did last year. He looks like he might have been hitting the track, and it's paying off. This Pittsburgh team has looked maybe more fit than ever before. And it certainly enhanced the intensity of their defensive play. And their D-line has really led them this year.
It's remarkable to see how much the D-line has gone from being really one of the worst at nationals to being one of the best at nationals in just a season. And there's a lot of players who've been a part of that. Carl Morgenstern, their Callahan nominee. Talked about Ng. He's playing offense right now, but really sort of more naturally a D player and has mostly played defense for them.
And really, this has turned from an offensive team to a defensive team, just spun things around 180 degrees. And our men's coverage is brought to you by Spin Ultimate. Spin Ultimate, custom team uniforms and branded apparel since 2007. Fresh designs to make your ultimate spirit shine on the web at spinultimate.com. Sudok going over to Mueller. You see Mueller playing both ways and now hucking deep. Solomon McMahon runs it down. Another easy deep score for UMass. And after Pitt had to work hard through a hold, UMass does it in 2 or 3 throws.
Both offenses looking crisp. And we're going to have a good one down to the wire here. The cap going on at any moment. Mueller comes under, sets it up, and bombs the backhand. Dropped in for the score.
And vocal Pittsburgh alum Isaac Saul tweeting at us, Mike Ng is the best sophomore in the country. And I'll tell you what, with potentially his number 1 contender on the field, perhaps either one of them can prove it in this matchup.
A few others come to mind as potential best in the country. Joe Freund, Virginia Tech. Tanner Johnson for UMass. But certainly Mike Ng has proven, I think what's most impressive about Mike Ng is how much he has improved since last year. He was a good, very talented rookie. Clearly made an impact, but he's made a big step forward this year. and you're seeing that in this game.
If you had a chance to watch Ultiworld's men's college highlight reel from our regular season cut, Mike King has probably my favorite play of the regular season. Just a gorgeous inside-out backhand huck to Sam Van Dusen from Florida warm-up, and he just also has developed his offensive skill set in a way I don't think we knew he could, and now we get that matchup on the field. I don't know if maybe they heard us, but Tanner Johnson defending Ing downfield. And now Mueller defending Jonah Wish. Wish high stall and manages a very nice scuba over to Ing. Johnson moving on the mark. Slevin with the quick throw up ahead to Wish. Wish tries to break back, but maybe rushing it a little bit. And I'm not sure what Slevin maybe misheard a call. Maybe thought there was a foul call. So tried to throw the disc back, but it was just a turnover. So Sadok picks up. Mueller streaks. Sadok takes the swing. Now Mueller with the disc, and you can already tell how involved he is. And look at the poise from the veteran. German national team captain burns a timeout, knowing a break can give Massachusetts the lead and put them in the driver's seat.
Yeah, it's a veteran call.
This timeout is presented by Disc Store. Head over to discstore.com to get your next team jerseys for just $15 each with the promo code ULTIWORLD. And that is a limited time offer, folks. And I couldn't say that more literally because we are ticking down the sands of the hourglass of our last broadcast of the year.
That's right. College season coming to a close tomorrow. We're hoping the weather holds later today. Semifinals begin at 11:30. Coverage on the ESPN app. You can go to watchespn.com. We'll be passing the torch over to them. And, of course, if you haven't already heard, the finals, the college championships, will be live on ESPNU. Of course, you can also watch on your app or online, but if you have a cable subscription, you can watch right there on your TV. Head to a local restaurant or bar, have them put ESPNU on, and watch the finals of the college championships. 3 and 5 p.m. tomorrow, Memorial Day, Monday.
I would love for Ultimate to band together and show ESPN that we got fans out here. Gramman gets up the line. Certainly plenty of fans for these two teams as the sidelines are packed. Here's Sadok lays out, steps around for a backhand to Gramman, and that is the break for UMass. Or is it? A pick call in the stack. May send this back. We'll see if it goes to the observers. And once we get a moment, this game is still close, but we'll give you some score updates. There are very close matches all around the field complex here in Mason, Ohio, including the game that the winner will decide the winner of this game will face between Carleton and Minnesota. Sadok with the disc. Wish with a very wide mark to try and stop the options, and toe-in attempt does it. UMass breaks. 12-11, Zoo Disc leads.
And I have not heard a horn, but I do believe soft cap went on during that point. I am going to confirm that. And as we wait to figure that out with the observers, take another look. Sadok looking and bouncing a forehand to the far cone for the goal.
Fearon just the stop and go cut there, and Toll turns his back to the cutter. As a defender, you never want to show him your back. And
it is a game to 13, so the soft cap went on during the previous before this point started that was just scored.
So a huge break there for UMass.
Either way, it was huge, but because now they're going to have 2 game points, extra important moment. So Pittsburgh with a hold can force double game point.
So the winner of this game will move on to face the winner of Carleton and Minnesota.
Close
Carleton
game.
On a 6-1 run breaks and now leads Minnesota 11-9 in a game to 12. So Minnesota, the reigning national champions, hanging on for their lives against Carleton. UNC Wilmington close to finishing off Washington. They're up 14-10 in that quarterfinal. In the women's division, Colorado with a 14-10 lead on Oregon. Looking to salt that one away. Now, 14-11. So that game probably nearing its conclusion. Texas also taking care of business against UCLA. They're up 14-9 at last count. So the semifinalists becoming clearer and clearer. That picture, will it include Pittsburgh or Massachusetts? UBC has clinched a bid. They're going to take on Dartmouth in the semifinals after winning over Virginia 15-11. So far in the women's division, not a single one of last year's semifinalists have made it, and it looks likely that we will not have a single repeat semifinalist in the women's division here at the Division I College Championships. Big pull here from UMass to be fielded by Slevin. Backstops it and sends it up to Wish. Sam Van Dusen coming over to cross to this O-line. Maybe to give them some extra pop. Ing underneath with Johnson in close chase. Ing turns to the reset, smothering defense from Mueller, but Wish backpedals into some free space. Edmonds. Backhands over to Van Dusen. The lefty likes to put it, has a lot of power. They're trying to show off the touch with the creative break throw to Wish. Wish, OI forehand, Ing versus Sadok and Johnson. Ing maxed it to himself for the score.
But a call, and it seems like every time there's a scoring play, there's a call. And I believe a pick in the stack. Nice play by Ing. And with the call, though they don't get the score, that's still a very important play to make.
Minnesota holds to keep it within one. Carleton up 11-10. Minnesota just a point away. This game coming down to the wire as well. UMass a point away. A very low throw from Wish, and this is going to be a blade of grass kind of argument right here as UMass calls it down.
And Nico Mueller is saying that it touched grass. Very, very hard to tell. I think they're going to probably call this up. And no, they call it down. Wow.
Mitch Dangler confidently steps in, and you don't see players argue
that
with
is
him very
a
often.
very bold call by the observing crew, considering that disc, I don't know how you could see that in real time, to be honest. I was thinking they were going to just call it contested and send it back, but no, they give the disc to UMass. They have a chance to put this one away.
And who would you rather have the disc in the hands of than Ben Sadok? He goes over to Fearon. Fearon, 18-year-old freshman, out there for some big plays for this UMass team, and now Mueller giving and going. Deep shot, no. Now Fearon to Johnson underneath. Oh, and Fearon with the second effort layout. Oh, and maybe caught it, shot to the back of the head there.
Well, he made the catch, and I think certainly there's going to be a foul call because the drop didn't happen until after contact from Pittsburgh player.
So let's take another look at this one and ensure that Fearon made the spectacular second effort catch. And yes, very clearly lands with the disc in his hand and drops it on contact either with Edmonds or after he is contacted by Edmonds. But on film, very clear that Fearon made the catch.
And another tough call for the observers.
Take this time to give you an announcement. Colorado has advanced to the semifinals in the women's division, eliminating Oregon for just it's the second time in 8 years, I think, that Oregon has not made the semifinals in the women's division. Check back in, and Sadok gets a couple small window plays, and now Mueller has it on the four-side sideline. Wish trying to cover Sadok in the backfield, but finds some backwards room. OIO break for Sadok. Over to Fearon, high release backhand to Gramman, and UMass just inches away from advancing to the semifinals and ending Pittsburgh's season. Jack Slevin maybe rolling an ankle here. Injury sub. Carl Morgenstern heads in. And Morgenstern, a great defender, but this is a back-to-the-wall situation for Pittsburgh and Sabanur.
Yeah. Morgenstern not going to have a ton of opportunity to make an impact so close to the end zone.
And just to throw later, Massachusetts Zudisk heads to the semifinals, exercising the ghosts of last year's #1 seed who failed to make it this far, and they end the season of Pittsburgh. 13-11, Brett Gramman into the end zone for Tanner Johnson. And that call on the down call by Jonah Wish looming large.
Yeah, that was a surprising call, but the trail observer must have had a good look at it touching grass. And either way, it's UMass with an excellent defensive performance in the final moments of the game to get the go-ahead break, and ultimately they break to win. 13-11, your final.
So UMass will advance to play Carleton, who defeats Minnesota. The reigning champions have gone down in quarterfinals to their regional rival, Carleton. So 2 semifinals from last year in the men's division down. All the semifinalists from last year in the women's division down. Will anybody from last year's semifinals make it back? I can tell you Harvard's not gonna. North Carolina in a double game point situation, I believe, with Wisconsin. Although I see a lot of gathering on the field behind us trying to suss out what's happening. Last count it was 13-13 there. See if I can get you. No semifinalists in either division will repeat.
Wow.
North Carolina goes down to Wisconsin. 2 North Central teams advance to the semifinals. Wisconsin will take on North Carolina Wilmington in the semifinals of the men's division.
Incredible.
Colorado will take on Texas in a South Central regional final rematch.
In the women's division.
This tournament looked like chalk when we started on Friday, and now all of a sudden not a single of last year's semifinalists remains eligible to advance to the semifinals.
It's incredible, Keith.
There's no way this ever happened.
Friday was an aberration. That's the thing. The fact that games went to seed on Friday was the aberration. We were thinking, maybe we're going to have much less of an exciting Nationals than we expected. And then yesterday was crazy, and we're going to have more craziness tonight because I don't think people were picking these matchups. I mean, we have to start and sort of rethink what the matchups are. I mean, UNC Wilmington versus Wisconsin, I don't think a lot of people saw that coming as a semifinal. But, boy, that sounds like a great matchup.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, just assume we're going to get nothing but great games because this round was exceptional. This is what you dream about when you come to college nationals. And after last year, it was hard to imagine that we were going to be able to match it this year. And so far, it's setting up to be just as exciting. This is a remarkable situation for us to have so many teams that weren't expected to advance this far going on, and so many teams that were expected to be in this conversation left out. And Charlie, I'm really looking forward to the semifinals matchups we've got.
So am I. It's very exciting. And it looks like that Wisconsin-UNC game is still going on, Keith. I don't know. Did you see something otherwise on Twitter? Because it looks to me like we're seeing right here on the field, 2 fields over, that UNC and Wisconsin are still fighting it out.
That may be the case. Maybe I called it too early. With the cap on, I'm surprised to see that they're still going this long. Let me check Twitter again.
We're going to keep our camera on that game.
Kind of a big deal over there.
You go.
So we'll try and bring you what we can of this game. So, folks, we're not going to attempt to commentate on this game in the distance, but I think we're going to try and leave the camera running just in case we can pull something together here. We're trying our best here at the Fields, so we want to bring you as much great Ultimate as we can. Trying to see if I can get you a update on the situation there. So, from what I can tell, it's now 14-14, and the next team to score will advance to the semifinals, with North Carolina pulling to Wisconsin. So still hope for one of the 8 semifinals of last year to advance to the semifinals again, and that lone hope is North Carolina, but they're going to need to break Wisconsin in order to do it. Wisconsin in the baby blues. North Carolina in black, befitting their name, Dark Side, and the baby blue, of course, the longtime color of this Wisconsin team. So it looks like there may be a timeout on the field as basically the teams try and get psyched up, go over the strategy. The winner of this game will advance to play UNC Wilmington in the semifinals. So we've already got Massachusetts and Carleton, and then we've got Wilmington and whoever wins this double game point between North Carolina and Wisconsin. That's a slate you can get excited about, folks. So it looks like North Carolina is set to pull. Matt Guccio-Hannes, of course, crossing over for this critical season-deciding point. This is double season point, folks. Somebody's season ends and someone goes on. Wisconsin deep shot. I can't help myself, folks. I got to talk about this one. The layout bid comes up just short. Wisconsin turns it over on the huck. And now North Carolina with the disc in their hands and their fate in their hands. So I don't think we're going to have the length of cable necessary to get you a closer camera for you on this game. So we'll keep you with the aerial view as North Carolina now has the disc after the missed huck from Wisconsin. Double season point between North Carolina and Wisconsin. Long throw, blocked by Wisconsin.
Look at all the fans on the game. As soon as this Pitt-UMass game ended, everybody flooded over there.
Well, there is no other game going on at the field complex. And this feels a little old school, Charlie. Old school Ultimate. Just line the sidelines, a wall of bodies.
There's something special about watching Ultimate at a tournament. And this is a classic college nationals. Oh, layout D from UNC. A Dark Side sidelines fired up.
Wow. I believe that was Nick McLeod with the block. It's hard to tell from here. Might be Guccio-Hannes. Stoppage in play. North Carolina with the disc and the chance to advance to semifinals to face their rival UNC Wilmington.
Oh, that would be classic.
I'm sure ESPN wouldn't mind getting that one. They've had it before.
That was a great game at regionals as well. UNC getting a close win over Wilmington. They had to come back to win.
Another stoppage as UNC tries to advance up the open sideline. One of the downsides of having a full sideline of spectators is it's hard to get you a full broadcast, but take what we can get in this situation.
We'll just keep you up to date as best we can. Obviously a little bit difficult, but we see UNC into the end zone.
Gooch Ohana scores. North Carolina advances.
So we get the Atlantic Coast rematch. UNC and UNC Wilmington will face off in the semifinals for the second time in the last 3 years. I can't remember. It was a couple years back when they faced off, maybe 2014.
I mean, maybe you could say I'm stretching for this, but the two divisions in the women's and men's mirror each other in so many ways. We have this 1-2 matchup in quarterfinals, and one of the top teams goes down. Now you have a regional final rematch, a hotly contested rivalry in semifinals. In the women's division, it's Texas and Colorado, and in the men's division, it's Wilmington, North Carolina.
Well, a phenomenal quarterfinals round comes to an end as UNC finishes it off 15-14 over Wisconsin in a classic game. I'd like to thank you so much for joining us this weekend. This is our 8th and final broadcast. I mean, you could sort of call it our 10th, I guess, as we got to the second half of Pitt UMass and the final moments of the
8.3,
okay.
8.5 or something.
We could take 8.5. I'd like to say a big thank you to our video team. We've all been working really hard. Our crew has been amazing. Big shout out, Jesse Goldstein, Aiden Shapiro-Layton, Hugo Soder. He's Keith Rayner. I'm Charlie Eisenhood. Thanks so much for being with us. We now pass the torch to ESPN. Semifinals get started at 11:30 a.m.
And again, if you've enjoyed our coverage this weekend or any of the coverage we've done over these past 4 nationals, I believe this is my 9th straight college or club nationals, as yours as well.
Yes.
If you've enjoyed the coverage over the past 5 years or looking forward to what we can do for you in the future, don't forget Worlds is coming here in 2018. We would really appreciate your support. We're in the middle of an important subscription drive. Without your support, we will not be able to continue to do the work that we do. And we want to bring you the best in Ultimate News coverage. So please head over to ultiworld.com/subscribe if you have not already done it. And if you have, tell a friend, tell an Ultimate fan, hey, we feel like we have something special here, and we love your support because we really need it to continue to do the work that we do.
Thanks so much, everybody. Signing off for the Ultra World broadcast, Charlie Eisenhood, and we'll talk to you again at a tournament very soon.